Hello and welcome to this fourth masterclass of G20 masterclass at ReTHINK India. We welcome you all. We started off with the G20 summit on 9th of September. There was a break on Sunday, but continuously we've been doing these masterclasses. And the whole schema, what we have brought about is that on the eve of 9/11, the New Delhi Leaders Declaration was announced, and for the first time in the history of G20, this 83 paragraph long and segmented in around 7 segments, this declaration got passed consensually. The leaders did not wait for the day 2 of the summit because many of them had to leave early. So it was adopted. It was released on 9th of September itself. So in order to give a larger overview of the entire G20 architecture, we felt that this New Delhi Leaders Declaration is the master document, and under that, the entire edifice of G20 deliberations, which happened for 10 long months. G20 every year, the presidency comes from December till November end. So this is the kind of a time frame which every G20, it's on rotation basis. Every country which is a member of it all. And this year, officially, this was perhaps the last meeting of G20 because the ambit has been expanded with the adoption of African Union into the G20 brotherhood, we can say, if at all. So the global high table, the 54 odd countries of the African Union as a group would be, their interests would also be represented on this very high table. And India spectacularly conducted around 220 plus meetings in 60 odd cities of the country. And as we will see down the line that we all have been hearing about Kyoto protocols and Paris Agreement and Addis Ababa Agreement, so on and so forth. So the G20 Sherpa, Amitabh Kant Sahab and his very spectacular team, they have done a phenomenal job of embedding a lot of Indian cities names into the G20 deliberation. तो कहीं पे अगर Chennai high level principles, if they were discussed about the green ocean, the blue ocean economy, so they have inserted that over there. So Indian cities all of a sudden have come to the global forefront, so that we will all see over there. So as far as the young Sherpas activity goes on, this entire masterclass is directed to nurture these aspiring young Sherpas of India in the G20 ambit. And every masterclass we try to recapitulate the why of it all. कि हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why the 6th grader, a 6th grader student would be very perplexed. Oh, I'm just a very youngster. Why I'm being somewhere pushed or inspired to delve deeper into these narratives of the big giants. Aapne, if 9th of September, if you have not watched it, watch it. The leaders walk which happened at the Bharat Mantapam. Around 14 multilateral institution chiefs were invited. India also invited 9 other countries as invitees. And G20, 19 countries, 1 European Union. And now 1 African Union is out there. So this is the entire Kunba, entire community of G20. So एक youngster के मन में एक this question comes कि why we are being made to discuss it all. One is obviously there has been an activity going on called MUN, the Model United Nations. It talks a lot about diplomacy or presentation or international affairs. So again and again, for the sake of repetition, not for the sake of repetition, but for the sake of revision, because principles and why, these things have to be impregnated and embedded deep within the conscience. The way we are talking about the convergence of technologies across the various technologies are coming together, and a spectacle which is called the 4th industrial revolution, we are all hearing about it. So this global governance, these narratives at the global governance level in an interconnected world are the epitome of everything or anything we face today as citizens of a global community. Globalization की जो हम बात करते हैं, it gets reflected, I would say, the most spectacularly by delving deeper into the discourse of these so-called course, COARSE, but I would say they are very charming the moment you get a hang of it all. So what's going on in the world, it's all encapsulated out here. दुनिया में क्या कुछ चल रहा है, किन मुद्दों पे बातें हो रही हैं, किन इश्यूज पर कंसर्न्स हैं. एक तो ये बात होगी कि यू विल बी एज अ यंग लर्नर, एज अ यंग शेरपा, बिकॉज यू हैव टू climb and connect. You are meant to create a life of yours. Or in today's time, in the couple of years, what we have seen is the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of the word has exponentiated. The way COVID struck us, the whole world got under the lockdown. तो ये जो VUCA factor है, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, if we can understand their mechanizations, what are the big issues because of which this VUCA is happening, so you can actually plan out your career trajectories per se. Because at the end of the day, as a 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, or even at a 11th or 12th grader, we all have a concern primarily about our future careers. So अगर मैं बहुत ही bottom line concerns की बात करूं, तो this entire discourse, this entire activity, this entire master classes, what we are trying to present to you, many of the things we don't expect you to even pick up even 10% of it all. कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता. And believe you me, this is the way of futuristic learning. This is the learning, iterative learning which happens कि on the first go, आप कोई भी नया सब्जेक्ट पढ़ेंगे, आप कोई भी नई डोमेन में जाएंगे, तो फर्स्ट आइटरेशन में यू विल जस्ट गेट सम आइडिया, सम वेरी lousy, very loose feel of things. But then second iteration, third iteration, in fact, there's a talk about Six Sigma in the manufacturing sector. So if you are really an ardent, studious person, so a deep narrative, it has to be, I would say, went over again and again. What we are doing, trying to do in these master classes, we don't want to rush. We don't want to parossify the entire content. We have just put up these slides just for visual pleasing part of it all. More is how to hear it all. This was a 37-pager PDF document. We felt to unravel it to you, to decomplicate it for you, so that you can find it charming. And these slides we'll share with you at the end of this masterclass marathon, what we are conducting. Today is the 4th day of it all. So from a career perspective, if I say, the future careers would all be revolving around these broader thematics. The future of agriculture, anti-corruption, where you go to the technological space. Now, anti-corruption using technological tools. The big shot companies, they are creating financial intelligence networks. So these are the thematics onto which many of the careers would depend. Many of the job roles would come into place. So if you are if you have to decide upon कि अगर मुझे manager भी बनना है, if I have to specialize into a particular field of management, perhaps many of these fields would come handy to it, which are the G20 discourse. So the global trends हैं, and the global trends which will remain for the next 10, 20, 15 years, इन्हीं का extension है, because these are the global challenges being faced by the world. So this familiarizes you with what's happening around. तो ये why अगर हमारे को बहुत clear है, तो we will start getting motivated कि इसका relevance क्या है. ये तो top level है कि it will really help us shape our career pathways. We will become more wise. We will be able to link up whatever is happening, whatever news channels we are watching, whatever news reportage we are listening, and even our textbooks, our classroom textbooks, they are trying to catch up with what's happening. So even the principles and precepts of them, you will be find an apt application of it all. So, so the whole purpose is not to mug up anything. The whole purpose is to getting familiarized with the phraseology, familiarized with the key terms, key terminologies. As far as the contest goes, that's a separate aspect we have put up. That contest is also evolving as we are moving forward. There is slated to be a kind of a preliminary screening test, which is non-eliminatory, whereby kids have to at least prepare a bit about the larger G20 framework, what's out there, and some trivia at the advanced level we might be asking. That's a different part. So what we have been doing for the last 3 days, if we see the entire leader, and also you will learn a dense material, how to decomplicate it, how to break it down, how to get our understanding deeper into it. केवल ग्रैंडियर ग्रेपवाइन जो चल रहा है मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया में, बहुत अच्छा हो गया. The Union Cabinet today has thanked the Prime Minister for hosting such a phenomenal, successful G20 event. So that is the politics part of it all, but the devil lies in the detail. And we as learners, studious people, we have to go deep into it. So there is a preamble, there is a for the planet, people, peace and prosperity section, clauses 7 to 14. So we are trying to read it as like we are reading a constitutional class. We are reading as a section, as a law book, because this is a very defining document. This is a document which encapsulates the 112 documents which have come out of the 2023 G20 marathons which happened for the 10 months. So having a macro view of things is so very important for us to appreciate. In the last classes, we have talked about ki more than awareness, the next level is the appreciation part of it. Can we analyze it? Can we associate the information aspect with our current understanding, with our other observances, with our other experiences? Application happens after that. So the core focus of this G20 Sherpas is primarily to make you sensitized to appreciate. And again, in every masterclass, we try to read and reread this quote of Sri Aurobindo, which remains the mission statement at ReTHINK India, that our first necessity is, if India is to survive and do her appointed work in the world, is that the youth of India should learn to think on all subjects, to think independently, fruitfully, going to the heart of things, not stopped by their surface, free of prejudgments, shearing sophism and prejudice ascender, as with a sharp sword, smiting down obscurantism of all kinds, as with the mace of a Bhima. So the culture of fast food learning doesn't work if you have to really go deeper into it. So we have discussed the segment A, the strong, sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth. We also have covered the accelerating progress on sustainable developmental goals. We learned yesterday in last masterclass that the SDGs, the 17 glorious SDGs which United Nations has been championing, only 12% of them are on track. The Agenda 2030 is really lacking, and India under her presidency, it felt instead of reinventing the wheel, our Sherpas, our foreign policy experts, they came forward and they said, whatever is existing, let's accelerate it across. And this is the whole approach, this is the whole philosophy with which G20 move forward. And today we would be focusing on the segment C, which is so very important. We are talking about green infra, green everything, to green development pact for a sustainable future. SDG is fine, it is the larger developmental goal. So if you have missed some of the last masterclass, you can go and see the recordings. They are available on the ReTHINK India YouTube channel. So these are from clause number 32 to 46, almost 50% we would be covering after that. Let's move forward and read clause by clause. The whole idea is don't rush yourself to understand everything in one go. जितना आपको समझ में आता है उसको आप समझें, then you read, reread, and just try to create I would say a 50,000 feet view kind of an imagery, a rough imagery. Acha, oh, this is this, something we are familiarizing ourselves with. That is the whole idea. And then the second reading and the third reading, and whenever you will be picking up your own work stream, I think that forward and backward march would happen. Dr. Surbi would like to add upon here with this prologue.
Yeah, I think it's stupendous. It's a very scintillating discussion, and we have covered the accelerating progress on SDGs in the last masterclass. So we're good to go.
Okay. So today the third segment is green development pact for a sustainable future. तो मैं मुद्दे में ये कहूंगा कि दुनिया भर में जितना भी ये ग्रीन की बात हो रही है, I think that is all encapsulated in these sections in pointers in one way or the other. Encapsulation is a technical aspect, but उस सबको इन्होंने पिरो के साथ में रख दिया है. So that is the beauty of this leader's declaration. It's a kind of a macro document over there. So the clause 32 reads that recognizing that the prosperity and the well-being of present and future generations depends on our current development and other policy choices and actions, we resolve to pursue environmentally sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Apne, in the segment A, when we were discussing, they had talked about economic growth has to go hand in hand with environmental conservation, environmental sustainability, and development in an integrated, holistic, and balanced manner. A lot of adjectives, as we have been discussing in our earlier master classes, that these global declarations have a lot of very high sounding adjectives. तो ये केवल फैंसीफुल बातें करने के लिए नहीं है, एक एक शब्द के अंदर बहुत गहरा मंतव्य छिपा हुआ है. There is a deeper meaning out there, and the more we will read the fine print of them, more we will go through a particular segment's chairman's summary and the outcome documents, and perhaps if we have the leisure and the intent, we go to the reports part of it all, which are so beautifully drafted. So we will appreciate further कि ये सारे adjectives क्यों हैं, इनके मायने क्या हैं. अगर हमने इनको आत्मसात कर लिया तो I think we have covered a huge ground in our learning curve early. And I tell you, I really give you the confidence that the 6th to 12th grade, whatever the mainstream curriculum is all about, it's fine. It is just probably 1/3 of our own industriousness or the academic aspect, but we can use the remaining part of our time to really develop our specializations into these narratives so that we can really cruise through in our career journey. So the clause 33 is quite a verbose one, lamba one, but we would like to read it verbatim and then explain wherever we feel ki there's a need of it. So the clause 33 says that we commit to urgently accelerate our actions to address environmental crises and challenges, including climate change. So it's a reality. It is not a 2012 wala movie, a host of dystopian movies we are seeing or the web series ki bhai climate. It's a reality. It's being felt across. In fact, if you have a greater observation aspect, Himachal mein, Uttarakhand mein, this monsoon, is saal स्नो जो थी वो मई तक चली है in the higher mountains out there, and the rainfall, the deluge, हिमाचल तो पूरा का पूरा ध्वस्त हो गया है. If you are following the news reportage, तो कहीं ना कहीं climate change is so very responsible for these extreme weather events. We recognize that the impacts of climate change are being experienced worldwide, particularly by the poorest and the most vulnerable, including in least developed countries and SIDs. It is small island developing states, that these are some of the terms. Mindful of our leadership role, we reaffirm our steadfast commitments in pursuing of the objectives of UNFCCC, that is a UN Convention for Climate Change, to tackle climate change by strengthening the full and effective implementation of the Paris Agreement and its temperature goal, reflecting equity and the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of different national circumstances. This is a very important concept, and this concept from climate change, let me come a bit to the classrooms, that the entire doctrine of personalized learning, which is evolving in a phenomenal fashion, where they are saying that even in a class section, every student has got his or her own interest deck. his or her evolutionary curve. We have got multiple intelligences with us. तो ग्लोबल लेवल पे भी ये प्रिंसिपल को यहाँ रखा गया कि हर देश की जो परिस्थिति है, the national circumstances are different, their evolutionary curves are different, तो we need to have a differentiated responsibility. So सबको साथ लेकर चलने का एक प्रयास, as a principle they have said. It's not that the United States of America, which has an economy of 20 trillion and which has grown a lot on a huge carbon emissions early in the developmental cycle, they cannot expect the same responsibility of cuts or things like that for an emerging country. तो ये यहाँ पे एक दंगल चलता है कि till when India declared last year COP, the Conference of Parties 27, कि हमारा net zero target we will achieve only by 2070. वर्ड में बात कर रहे हैं 2050 की, एंड G20 का ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट है ये 2030 तक कुछ कमिटमेंट्स की बात कर रहा है. तो ये आप टर्म समझिए, डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, जिसकी जैसी कैपेबिलिटी है, जिसका जहां जो उसका जो स्थान है उसके अनुसार. सो दिस इज व्हाट आल्सो इज द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ पर्सनलाइज्ड लर्निंग, पर्सनलाइज्ड टीचिंग. So you can match it up over there कि भाई मेरे को 5 subjects में से I am good at this, good at that. So you are doing a differentiated learning. We are all going through the same course content, but then I have the choice to pick and choose, to juxtapose one subject with the other, the interdisciplinarity. So somewhere or the other, that principle comes out here. We note with concern that global ambition and implementation to address climate change remain insufficient to achieve the temperature goal of the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement में एक temperature goal की बात हुई है. We will come to that. So there are global studies कि भाई pre-industrial era का जो global temperature था, we have to keep the global average temperature, increase in the average global temperature well below 2 degrees. But scientific studies जो IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change ने ये बात कही है कि the impacts of climate change will be much lower at a temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius compared with 2 degrees Celsius. सारा झगड़ा half a degree Celsius का है, and this is based on extraordinary advanced modeling of the Earth's climate. All mathematics come over here, all sciences, whatever sciences we can think of, and their specializations and super specializations, they are all incorporated out here. All the physics principles, all the chemistry principles. So this is a beautiful narrative. So Paris Agreement ने कहा कि हम केवल increase को 2 डिग्री के नीचे रखेंगे, but जो latest demand IPCC कहता है कि भाई अगर केवल 1.5 डिग्री तक हमको सीमित रखना है global temperature rise को, we cannot afford it beyond that. अगर 1.5 डिग्री से ज्यादा होगा तो जो इम्पैक्ट है क्लाइमेट चेंज का वो फिनोमिनल, वो ज्यादा हैवॉक क्रिएट करेगा. 2 से तो आगे प्रलय ही आ जाएगी शायद. सो दिस इज a figure, key figure. All those who are climate enthusiasts who want to go deeper into this narrative, they should have this temperature target. So they have said that different approaches and clear national pathways, क्योंकि sovereign governments हैं तो सबको अपना अपना voluntary targets रखने हैं, and align long-term ambition with short and medium-term goals. अभी we have heard our transport minister in one of the conferences today, he said कि मैं डीजल के वाहनों को इतना महंगा कर दूंगा कि people will not be able to afford them. So national governments, depending on their internal politics, will come कि भाई कितना हम transition कर पाएंगे from fossil fuels to clean fuels. But this is a global table, तो सब लोग अलग अलग अपनी अपनी बातें रख रहे हैं. तो इसमें इंटरनेशनल कोऑपरेशन और सपोर्ट की बात है, जिसमें मुख्य बात है फाइनेंस की और टेक्नोलॉजी की. बिकॉज टेक्नोलॉजी जो डेवलप कंट्रीज हैं उन लोगों ने तो बहुत पहले डेवलप की हुई है और वो महंगी कर रखी है, विच प्रोबेबली द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, जिसको अब ग्लोबल साउथ के टर्म से नवाजा गया है कि भाई ग्लोबल साउथ है, तो वो फाइनेंस और टेक्नोलॉजी का जो इंटरप्ले है आपस में, अब अभी तो उल्टा हो रहा है कि इंडिया इज सेंडिंग इट्स ओन फिनटेक यूपीआई टेक्नोलॉजी टू द ग्लोब कि भाई आप लोग भी इसको यूज कीजिए. So, and one is this, the second is sustainable and responsible consumption and production. This is a very important principle, and we will come to the life part also. And Prime Minister talked a lot about democratizing the action on climate change. So हम consumption as individuals, as enlightened souls, हम लोग अपनी life में किस प्रकार से consumption को responsible कर सकते हैं. Maybe it is a very small fraction of impact, but then when that fraction adds up, it really goes in a big way. That principle has been enunciated here. And we recognize that limiting global warming to 1.5 degree. अभी कई बार हम पूछते हैं 1.5 डिग्री तो क्या, उसका रेफरेंस पॉइंट यहाँ पे दिया गया है टू द प्री-इंडस्ट्रियल एरा. प्री-इंडस्ट्रियल एरा अराउंड द बैटल ऑफ पिलासी 1757 जो हुई थी. तो हिस्ट्री कम्स इनटू क्लाइमेट एक्शन very well. So this is an interdisciplinary discourse, as we can see. Then they have talked about IPCC AR6 synthesis report, a technical one. आप में से जिसको interest हो, you can go deeper, but just let's move it forward. And they have said that rapid, deep, and sustained reductions in global greenhouse gas emissions by 43% by 2030. लगभग आधा करने का टारगेट है. 43%, close to that 50% relative to the 2019 levels. तो ये incremental efforts की तरफ दुनिया जा रही है कि भाई we have to reduce our greenhouse emissions by this level. आधा, लगभग आधा. And they are saying that global GHG emissions are projected to peak between 2020 and at least at the latest before 2025. In global modeled pathways that limit warming to 1.5 degrees with no or limited overshoot, and in those that limit warming to 2 degrees and assume. इसका मुद्दा मतलब ये है कि भाई 2025 तक दुनिया में जिसको जितना डेवलपमेंट करना है, जितना ग्रीन हाउस एमिशन बनाना है, जितने फर्नेसेस बनाने हैं, जितने कोल बेस या गैस बेस पावर प्लांट्स बनाने हैं, आप मैक्सिमम अपना 2025 तक कर लीजिए. दैट इज द पीक लेवल. फिर हम उस पीक लेवल के बाद में वी विल ऑल यूज मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी एंड एवरीथिंग टू रिड्यूस इट. दैट इज हाउ द ग्लोबल मॉडलिंग गोज. तो ये दिस इज वन ऑफ द क्लॉजेस. लेट्स मूव ऑन. वी अर्ज ऑल कंट्रीज दैट हैव नॉट येट अलाइंड देयर NDCs. These are nationally determined commitments. हर देश अपना कमिटमेंट ग्लोबल टेबल पे डालता है. इस बार का जो COP है वो नवंबर 30 से 12 दिसंबर तक दुबई में होगा. तो हर साल ये बातें की जाती हैं कि भाई आप कर क्या रहे हो, हाउ आर यू प्रोग्रेसिंग ऑन दैट, डेटा ड्रिवन गवर्नेंस. तो इन्होंने कहा कि भाई हम सभी से अर्ज करते हैं कि आप अपने NDCs को टेम्परेचर गोल ऑफ पेरिस एग्रीमेंट के साथ रखिए. एंड we recall that nationally determined nature of NDCs in Article 4.4 of the Paris Agreement, which provides that developed country parties should continue taking the lead by undertaking economy-wide absolute emission reduction targets. Developing country parties should continue enhancing their mitigation efforts and are encouraged to move over time towards economy-wide emission reduction. तो डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कही गई है कि जो डेवलप्ड हैं वो ज्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लें, क्योंकि इट इज वन अर्थ वन प्लैनेट वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, वन प्लैनेट वन फैमिली वन फ्यूचर. तो प्लैनेट तो एक है, पर उसको फैमिली की तरह देखेंगे तभी वो एक सिंगल फ्यूचर बनेगा. दैट वाज द कोर पंचलाइन ऑफ G20 2023. तो इसमें इन्होंने बहुत सारे प्रिंसिपल्स की बात की है. सर्कुलर कार्बन इकोनॉमी, सोशो इकोनॉमिक, टेक्नोलॉजिकल, market development, and promoting the most efficient solutions. कि जहां redundancies हैं, हम टेक्नोलॉजी से emissions को reduce कर सकते हैं, better filters लगा सकते हैं, तो वो किया जाए. हम alternate fuels पे, तो multi-pronged strategy is there, and climate change happens to be the biggest, even more than the Russia-Ukraine conflict. वो तो कितनी wars हम लोगों ने देखी हुई. तो विकास सस्टेनेबिलिटी की वॉर है. अब तो अस्तित्व पर ये प्रश्न चिन्ह आ गया है. दिस इज व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू मिटिगेट. सो द सबसेक्शन सेज दैट मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक रिस्क व्हिच आर स्टेमिंग फ्रॉम क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड ट्रांजिशन पाथवेज. बहुत प्यारी बात यहाँ लिखी गई है. दे आर सेइंग दैट द मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक कॉस्ट of the physical impacts of climate change are significant, both at the aggregate level and the country levels. And the cost of inaction substantially outweighs that of orderly and just transitions. कि अगर हम एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन कर सकते हैं, अगर हम अपने डेवलपमेंटल पाथवेज को ग्रीन कर लेते हैं, उसमें जो कॉस्ट लगेगी उससे कहीं ज्यादा कॉस्ट है कि इफ वी लेट दिस गो unawares. So we recognize the importance of international dialogue and cooperation, including in the areas of finance and technology, and timely policy action consistent with the country-specific circumstances. Everywhere they are saying, they're not coercing, like we have heard about the nuclear non-proliferation agreements. वहां पे coercion था, पर यहाँ पे विकास भी है और environmental concerns भी हैं. So they are all trying out to balance it across. It is also critical to assess and account for the short, medium, and long-term macroeconomic impact of both the physical impact of climate change and transition policies, including on growth, inflation, and unemployment. We endorse the G20 report on macroeconomic risk stemming from climate change and transition pathways. Building on analysis in this report, we will consider further work on the macroeconomic implications. तो जब एक global consensus बनाना होता है, तो कहीं ना कहीं एक threat concerns ko we have to put it in numbers, and this is what it is, the complex domain of diplomacy. They bring about the scientific technological factor. Technology gives you the solution. The scientific evidences are out there. So it's a convergence of all domains in one go. That is why this is so very interesting. Then they are talking about mainstreaming lifestyles for sustainable development. अब हम लोग personal life में consumption बहुत ज़्यादा कर रहे हैं. So how we can, that will add up into an unsustainable consumption part. So this was an initiative launched under the leadership of India, that lifestyles for sustainable development. And one more principle which I want to bring about, and this might be, should be a part of your presentations. How do you appreciate or associate any of the G20 narratives in your own experience? Because kahin na kahin in any fraction, can you distill down that larger global narrative with your own life? कोई ना कोई केस उठा के, कोई ना कोई एक एक्सपीरियंस को उठा के आप उसको एक्सट्रापोलेट कर सकते हैं. So that remains the core concern ki is it affecting our own personal lives? Because then only that link comes, and then you become in resonance with the whole narrative. So they are talking about G20 high-level principles on lifestyles for sustainable development. They are saying, the leaders are saying that we commit to robust collective actions that will enable the world to embrace sustainable production and consumption patterns and mainstream lifestyles for sustainable development. We give an example ki bhai in Bangalore, there is a group called Adamya Chetana, and they have a big shot Bartan bank, utensil bank. If a big party has to be thrown, why to use the use and throw cutlery? Why not borrow, I would say, utensils from that utensil bank, use them, the cutlery over there, wash them, return them. So it becomes a very responsible consumption framework. So we can try to map it up in what ways we can reduce the carbon footprints in one go or the other. There are many organizations which are coming up with bamboo toothbrushes, but even if you throw them back, so in the nature, they get assimilated. So very small stuff. At a top-down level, things are happening, but somewhere this entire assimilation, what we are making, is a bottoms-up approach also. So at an institutional level, at an individual level, how we can use our own agency to contribute and live a healthy lifestyle. And that is what this is all about. And relevant studies on it have shown that it could contribute a significant emission reduction by 2030 for a global net zero future. We support the creation of an enabling policy environment to promote sustainable lifestyles for climate action. Towards this, they are saying that we will implement the G20 high-level principles on lifestyles, support the implementation of high-level principles through, this is a top-down approach. But as G20 young shapers, I can ask you, if you are given, if you are in the seat of, say, your country, your fictitious nation, आप अपनी life, because a family is a sovereign unit, a school, your teachers, your principals, you can make a marked difference even over there. A kind of a case you can bring about कि भाई हमें अपनी lifestyle में क्या corrections करने हैं, which will add upon to a sustainable future. So, and एक बहुत बड़ी बात इन्होंने की, नोट द लॉन्च ऑफ ट्रैवल फॉर लाइफ. कल के हमने एसडीजी गोल में देखा कि हाउ कल्चर वाज ब्रॉट इन अंडर द लीडरशिप ऑफ इंडिया एज अ की component, as a key catalyst for accomplishing the sustainable developmental goals, because culture goes into economy phenomenally. उन्होंने कल IPRs की भी बात की कि जो हमारे कारीगर हैं, handicrafts people हैं, tourism and culture, they are so intertwined, they affect the economy in a phenomenal fashion. So travel for life and support the development of a smart destination. Let people get कि भाई मैं frugal life कैसे जी सकता हूँ? How can I consume less? How can I waste फेंकने से पहले? India still is very frugal. We have a circular economy. अगर हम rural areas में जाएं तो वो तो 100% circular economy ही है. तो that is a matter of another thing. तो global level पे कि जहाँ पे use and throw का culture आ गया, हमारे यहाँ तो दूध भी पहले उन थैलियों में नहीं आता था, दूध वाला अपने उसमें big buckets used to bring in, pour in our own small utensil. तो zero polythene. आज हमारे घर में अगर 2 लीटर दूध आ रहा है तो 4 थैलियां रोज की हम थ्रो आउट कर रहे हैं. Can we replace it? Can we take our own water bottles and fill them from the house and school filter? तो in fact travel में बहुत कचरा ये create करते हैं. तो these are the kind of ways कि plastic bottles, which are a huge source of plastic pollution in the oceans. So this is where it is all leading to. Then yes, they are talking about designing a circular economy world in order to endeavor to decouple our economic growth from environmental degradation and enhance sustainable consumption and production, including primary resource consumption, while supporting economic growth. We acknowledge the critical role played by circular economy, extended producer responsibility, and resource efficiency in achieving sustainable development. We thank the Indian presidency in launching resource efficiency and circular economy industry coalition. There is a talk कि भाई इतना जो FMCG companies हैं, with whatever supply chain they are sending out their packaged products, they can take back the same packaging using the market-driven interventions, using the reverse supply chain. कोक की बॉटल गई, आपने कंज्यूम किया, इट्स फाइन, देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग अबाउट इट, बट देन उसको लिटर करने की बजाय, बिकॉज म्युनिसिपल लोड इंक्रीजेस सब्सटैंटिवली, तो जो ट्रक आपका लौट रहा है वो उस समय खाली बोतलें या खाली टैंक्स ऑफ द सेम ब्रांड, दे कैन टेक इट बैक. सो पहले एक आम सहमति बने तो लॉट ऑफ इनोवेटिव मार्केट ड्रिवन म्युनिसिपल ड्रिवन इनिशिएटिव्स कैन बी वर्कड अराउंड. गार्बेज टू गोल्ड, that is what is called about कि भाई how to turn garbage into gold. एक तो है कि भाई सोर्स पे हम यूज ही कम से कम करें, फिर लिटर ना करें, उसको रिसाइकिल कर लें. So this is how the whole concept is coming into play, and they are talking about zero waste initiatives. Can we create that, the zero waste initiatives कि भाई airlines में when the food is served, earlier cutlery used to be there. Now, so much of plastic and use and throw stuff has come. In Shatabdis, it has come. So can we rework around that? So this remains at the global level. Then they're talking about implementing clean, sustainable, just, affordable and inclusive energy transition. हर term के पहले आपको बहुत सारे 3, 4, 5 adjectives देखने को मिलेंगे. Don't get bogged down by that. Come to the core of it all. Energy transitions की बात कर रहे हैं, but then what are the, you can try to create mind maps to understand that कि energy transitions क्या हो, जो clean हो, sustainable हो, just हो, affordable हो, inclusive हो. And इन्होंने बहुत सारे points यहाँ लिखे हैं the first point is we emphasize the importance of maintaining uninterrupted flows of energy from various sources, suppliers and routes, exploring paths of enhanced energy security and market stability. एक मैं और बात यहाँ पे कहना चाह रहा हूँ, एक बहुत बड़ा डिजाइन प्रिंसिपल जो गवर्नेंस का है, balancing between competing aspects. You cannot compromise on economic growth. You cannot compromise on environment. This is called optimization. If you will go higher studies, every action, a managerial action, if you are a technocrat, you are designing a system, you have to optimize it between the extremes, between the two boundary cases. You have to find out the central optimization, and there the real challenges lie. Infinite resources hai, so you can design anything or everything under the sun. So this is where this gets complex. कि आपको 3 घंटे में ही वो अपनी जो साल भर की अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, लर्निंग है, you have to present it to your examiner. तो वो optimization हो गया. So that's somewhere the underlying principle goes over there. ये लोग low cost financing की बात कर रहे हैं. International Solar Alliance was constituted in the leadership of India. तो energy transition का मतलब ये है कि fossil fuels से जो high carbon driven fuels हैं, हम low carbon driven या zero carbon driven fuels तक, renewable तक कैसे जाएं? तो ये transition बड़ा tricky है, because एकदम से तो you cannot switch off the wheel of the world in one go. And as we understood earlier कि हर देश की अपनी एक डेवलपमेंट की आवश्यकता है. तो जो एडवांस कंट्रीज हैं जिन्होंने डेवलपमेंट पा लिया है, they have touched the 20 trillion mark and odd. The second one is China, 16 odd trillion dollars. India is still grappling, working hard, moving towards that. तो सब लोग अपनी अपनी जिम्मेवारी समझ के कैसे करें वो ट्रांजिशंस में, विंड पावर, सोलर पावर, I would say all kind of different and hydrogen, for example, is being explored in a big way. तो आप में से जो एनर्जी वाला ट्रैक पकड़ेंगे, they can go deeper into it. जिसको टेक्नोलॉजी में इंटरेस्ट, इनफैक्ट आई वुड लाइक टू से कि आप कोई भी फील्ड पकड़ लीजिए, टेक्नो, मैनेजरियल, लीगल, कॉमर्स, ये G20 सबके साथ, इट इज द ऑल इनकम्पासिंग. आप लॉयर बन सकते हैं तो एनर्जी फील्ड के लॉयर बन सकते हैं. दिस इज वेयर द फ्यूचर of your career aspirations also go over there. Energy negotiations, energy pricing, MBA करने जाना है तो we can do in energy spaces. Yes, some of these thematics, narratives, whatever we are talking about. तो लगभग $4 trillion investment की बात हो रही है for these energy transitions. Developed countries, if you will see deeper into the things, वो उन्होंने टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप करके तो रखी हुई है, but they are not offering it for free or a low cost one. तो इन्होंने G20 में चैलेंज है कि फाइनेंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी बोथ की, अगर आपको टेक्नोलॉजी से पैसा कमाना है तो आप उसका पैसा दीजिए, और अगर आप जैसे भारत ने वैक्सीन मैत्री के तहत अपनी वैक्सीन बहुत ही चीपली सबको दे दी, तो या तो टेक्नोलॉजी को सर्वजन हिताय सर्वजन सुखाय की भाव से आप उसको बांट दीजिए, विस्तार कर दीजिए, बिकॉज इट्स इज अ कॉमन गोल. सो दैट इज वेयर दीज नेगोशिएशंस, the term negotiations we will hear a lot on the global platform. People talk a lot of phony, flowery words, but at the end of the day, what they're saying on top, that's why the language is so flowery. We ekdam se we cannot commit to that. So that's where diplomacy is working. So इन्होंने एक बहुत बड़ा term हर बार use किया, voluntary action plan for promoting renewable energy to accelerate universal energy access in modern times. जैसे we might have heard, कल हिंदी दिवस है कि रहीमन पानी राखिए, रहीमन पानी राखिए, बिन पानी सब सून. तो in today's modern economy, without energy, the modern economic growth just cannot function. So they have said that we have to have the flow of energy, but then the transitions have to be accentuated by low cost financing and also the technology which is out there. The same stuff comes into place. Global Biofuels Alliance, for example, India, our petrofuels are being blended with ethanol, which comes from sugarcane. All our sugar factories, which used to discard, so they are blending a significant percentage of it. So, कम से कम कुछ तो reduction उसमें से आ रहा है. Then critical minerals and materials which are beneficiated at source. Lithium-ion batteries की बात आ रही है. Where they will come from, the entire electrical vehicle transition, so it will come over here. They are also talking about the usage of civilian nuclear energy. It's clean, but yes, it has to be confined. Fukushima nuclear reactor tragedy, we all have memories of. So how to nuclear decommissioning and radioactive waste, those issues. And then they are also talking about the efficiencies, grid interconnections, जो high टेंशन वायर्स आप लोग देखते हैं 11,000 किलोवाट के केवी पावर ट्रांसमिशन लाइन, तो हाउ टू मेक द मोर इफेक्टिव. इंडिया हैज बिकम वन ग्रिड नाउ. सो जो ट्रांसमिशन लॉसेस हैं वो मनी सेव्ड इज मनी अर्न, तो एनर्जी सेव्ड इज एनर्जी अर्न. सो ऑन अ होस्ट ऑफ पैरामीटर्स, इनफैक्ट यू कैन थिंक ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अ माइंड मैप कि भाई सस्टेनेबल फ्यूचर को लेकर कितने तरह के वर्किंग. दिस इज अ लीनियर वे ऑफ रिप्रेजेंटेशन, but if you are really interested, you can create a mind map कि center में कि which are the various dimensions which the global thought process is out there, and then you can pick up specializations and super specializations, so on and so forth. So we just wanted to show you the whole trajectory of it all. Then they are talking about delivering on climate and sustainable finance. बार बार ये फाइनेंस की बात यहाँ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंटली हो रही है. इनफैक्ट आप देखेंगे कि पूरे G20 में 3 ट्रैक थे. शेरपा ट्रैक इज द सब्सटेंटिव वन. एंगेजमेंट ग्रुप्स वर ऑन द पेरिफेरल साइड ऑफ इट ऑल, कि जो वो मेन डिस्कोर्स नहीं है बट है. सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस कैसे एक्ट करेंगे, सुप्रीम ऑडिट इंस्टीट्यूशंस कैसे काम करेंगे, यूथ थिंक tanks कैसे काम करेंगे, because it has to be an all approach. You have to converge somewhere or the other to create a fist, a global compact. But finance track जो था वो parallel है, because finance is the driving factor all over. Ultimately जो global currency system है, monetary system है, everything else distills into that sovereign wealth कि हम कैसे, because we have acquired a rupee is 84 vis-a-vis a dollar. So this means कि we are on the lower financial peddling या जो भी है. तो फाइनेंस की बात इन लोगों ने बार बार की है कि भाई कहाँ से पैसा आएगा. जो नेशनली डिटरमाइंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस लोगों को लाने, हमारे पास तो अपने खाने के पैसे नहीं है. डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज ये कहेंगे, तो हाउ वी विल कॉम्बैट क्लाइमेट चेंज, तो द डेवलप्ड वंस हैव टू कंट्रीब्यूट टुवर्ड्स दैट. सो दिस इज व्हाट सस्टेनेबल फाइनेंस की बात इसने की है. देन G20 टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस एक्शन प्लान. अब ये नहीं हो सकता कि मेरे पास टेक्नोलॉजी है तो मैं आपको नहीं दूंगा, सो दैट यू कैन नॉट ट्रांसलेट योर पावर प्लांट्स इनटू मोर एफिशिएंट पावर प्लांट्स. सो क्लाइमेट चेंज इज अ कंबाइंड एफर्ट. तो यू हैव टू, या तो मुझे आप टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत ही चीप में दीजिए या उसका पैसा दीजिए, व्हाटएवर वे, you have to do it. And then data related barriers to climate investments. कितना पैसा दिया, किस रेट्स पे दिया, very intricate aspects, but we just felt कि भाई this is all we have to understand कि finance and technology, that is why they have been clubbed together. And then sustainable consumption and production, that is the other side of the story in this climate change narrative. Then they are talking about scaling up investments in climate finance from billions to trillions. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है जो मैक्रो लेवल पे हम लोगों को सोच आ सकती है कि अभी जो भी खर्चा हो रहा है वो बिलियंस के अराउंड हो रहा है, बट जो एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि अगर ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस को 43% हमें 2030 तक रिड्यूस करना है, अगर हमें जो पेरिस एग्रीमेंट का जो क्लाइमेट टेम्परेचर कंट्रोल का जो टारगेट है 1.5% का प्री इंडस्ट्रियल लेवल तक, तो ट्रिलियंस का ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टमेंट करना होगा. नोट द नीड ऑफ USD 5.8 to 5.9 trillion in the pre-2030 period. This is the first yardstick they have brought together, and Agenda 2030 of the UN and the climate action, they all are converging together. And as well as the need of USD 4 trillion per year for clean energy technologies by 2030 to reach a net zero emissions by 2050. India has committed only by 2070, but this is the global goal. जो है अभी COP27 last year हुआ था, इस साल the conference of parties on climate action is going to be in Dubai in November 30th to around 12th December. So this is what they have talked about. There is a talk of Glasgow Climate Pact. तो एक ब्यूटीफुल बात यह है कि इस डॉक्यूमेंट के अंदर में दुनिया जहान के जो भी कंसर्न्ड पैक्ट्स हैं, कन्वेंशंस हैं, they have invoked them beautifully well. This is one of the, जैसे we all read, civics faculty would have talked कि भाई Indian Constitution is the lengthiest, bulkiest, the most verbose one of it all. Somewhere or the other, this New Delhi Declaration, G20 New Delhi Declaration has really come up with 83 long, I would say, sections. So they have brought everything to align it. So then they are talking about conserving, protecting, and sustainably using and restoring ecosystems. ये बहुत important बात है कि climate change, biodiversity loss, desertification, drought, land degradation, pollution, food insecurity, and water scarcity. तो अगर आप केवल इन terms को ही समझ लेते हैं, whenever we call about कि what are the ecosystem challenges, तो these are the ones. और they have said कि भाई by 2030 हम लोग 30% of all degraded ecosystems को we will restore. That is the largest commitment. They have talked about a GBF biodiversity framework has been mentioned, because biodiversity is also getting lost in a big way. हम लोगों ने in our EVS or biology classes कि भाई how it is, how biodiversity is so very important. Some of the examples come in our textbooks, but this is the global ramifications we are facing. So land degradation, which is happening at a fast pace by 50%. अब ये जो मैं बात शुरू में कह रहा था कि like गांधीनगर implementation roadmap, गांधीनगर इंफॉर्मेशन प्लेटफॉर्म, कल हमने देखा था कि गोवा टूरिज्म रोड मैप, तो बहुत ब्यूटीफुली जो इंडियन सिटीज हैं जहां पे जो ग्लोबल कॉन्फ्रेंस हुआ G20 का, उन्होंने उस डिक्लेरेशन का नाम अपने शहर के नाम पे दे दिया. वैसे गांधीनगर वाज ऑन अ टूरिस्ट रोड मैप, बट नाउ व्हेन इट हैज कम इनटू द G20 डिक्लेरेशन, तो इसका जो यूटिलाइजेशन है एट द एलीट लेवल, एट ऑल द रिसर्चर लेवल, at all the diplomats level, तो ये बढ़ गया एकदम से. ये बहुत अच्छा प्रयोग. This example we can see one of the beautiful, I would say, way of exhibiting India's prowess. So this is all technical part. We can read once we will have it. And then harnessing and preserving the ocean-based economy, because हम सब जानते हैं कि धरती तो 1/3 है, 2/3 is all water. So even the globe has been seen in a holistic fashion. So words, oceans, and marine ecosystems, and they have yet another same principle, Chennai high-level principles. They could have said G20 or whatever, so they have named it as Chennai high-level principles for a sustainable and resilient blue ocean-based economy. कि oceans को हम कैसे clean रखें. They are talking about the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And then Ocean 20 dialogue की बात इन्होंने की है कि ending illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, as well as destructive fishing methods. तो biodiversity बची रहे, human consumption भी हो, but reckless ना हो. So that is what Antarctica treaty system. So studied with all sorts of things. Very important part, ending plastic pollution. All the plastic eventually goes to हमारी soil को pollute कर रहा है, पर वाटर साइकिल में आके वो ओशंस तक जा रहा है. So we are determined to end plastic pollution. In this context, we welcome the resolution UNEP, which established an intergovernmental negotiating committee to develop international legally binding instrument. आप लोग अपना कचरा, in fact, you might be knowing कि the developed countries ना in the name of shedding off, वो कंटेनर के कंटेनर अपना समुद्र डीप सी में डिस्पोज कर देते हैं. कई बार मंडी गोविंदगढ़ एंड अदर प्लेसेस इन नॉर्दर्न इंडिया, वहां के स्क्रैप आ जाते हैं. सो दैट्स अ डंपिंग व्हिच कीप्स ऑन हैपनिंग ऑफ द वेस्ट व्हिच हैपेंस. तो प्लास्टिक के लिए दे वांट टू हैव अ लीगली बाइंडिंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट. एंड G20 मेरीन लिटर एक्शन प्लान, अगेन Osaka blue ocean vision. Osaka is a city in Japan, as we know. So a lot of geography comes to our light ki acha, what is Osaka? So let's take this entire G20 na as a trivia. Acha ye yahan hai. In fact, if you can create your own hyperlinks, a project, we will share with you this presentation. Maybe you can use, we have used the tool Canva as a design tool, which is one of the very finest on the I would say cloud-based design tool. तो आप लोग इसमें अपने hyperlinks भी डाल सकते हैं for your own learning. Like wiki में हम लोग पढ़ते हैं तो अपना खुद का learning dashboard कि मुझे क्या समझना है, मुझे कैसे इसको आगे बढ़ना है. I think that is on the cards out here. And then financing cities of tomorrow. They are talking about कि a new paradigm of cities की बात कर रहे हैं, which are inclusive, resilient and sustainable. बहुत ज़्यादा energy guzzling cities की बात नहीं हो रही है. So moving forward, ये बहुत important है, reducing disaster risk and building resilient infrastructure. Sustainability के बाद the next part is resilience. कि climate change तो होगा, extreme climate events तो होंगे, क्योंकि we have exploited Mother Earth phenomenally. तो अब जो हम infrastructure बनाएं, उसमें resilience को incorporate करें कि अगर सुनामी आया, अगर भूकंप आया, तो हम disaster का risk reduce कैसे करें? Earthquake prominent buildings हम बनाएं, early warning and early action हम रखें, disaster and climate resilience of infrastructure systems की बात हो रही है. And then very important they have said about is mutual learning of recovery experiences. कि भाई जो managerial experience, अब इंडिया की जो G20 बनाई है, there are unconfirmed reports. Now there will be case studies on this कि भारत ने इतना बड़े लेवल पे आयोजन कैसे किया. G20 summits used to be limited to 1 or 2 cities, and people, general public was not involved into that. It remained an elitist bastion. But these are a common man's concern as well. So कैसे हम इस लर्निंग को, कहीं पे भूकंप आया, नेपाल में इतना बड़ा भूकंप था तो उन्होंने कैसे उसको रेस्टोर किया, अभी मोरक्को में हुआ, तो आपदाओं को तो हम नहीं रोक पाएंगे. हम धीरे धीरे वी आर गेटिंग फर्दर कि वी हैव टू लिव इन कम्युनियन विद मदर नेचर, बट कैसे हम रेजिलियंस क्रिएट कर सकें. सो ये भी इनका एक बहुत बड़ा कंपोनेंट है. So I think we come to the close of this section C. We have rushed through because this climate change, this green development pact, काफी technical in nature. It's a convergence of sciences, basic sciences of all sorts, then technologies, engineering, mathematics, and then at the end of the day, diplomacy. कि भाई leaders decision लेंगे, pacts बनेंगे. So this is what. So tomorrow we will continue this marathon and we will take the section D. I think which will be easier. Maybe we will cover 2. We are just familiarizing you. This is the multilateral institutions for the 21st century. Reinvoke multilateralism कि भाई लड़ाई मत करो, आपस में बातें करो, cooperations करो. So global debt vulnerabilities की बात इसमें है. International financial institutions को रिफॉर्म करने की बात है. एंड एज अ प्रिंसिपल जो ब्रेटन वुड की बात थी कि वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के बाद पूरी दुनिया जुटी कि भाई ये त्रासदी फिर ना हो. सो उसी प्रकार से नाउ वी हैव exploited earth in a big way, so how to reinvigorate multilateralism, this will be the talk for tomorrow maybe. And then technological transformation and digital public infrastructure, isme India has made phenomenal strides. We are the backroom IT power. And in fact, if you see, there are reportages that Indian origin CEOs are actually leading the giant tech corporations in the West. Under their leadership, the futuristic technology is getting created. So, but technology at a private level and a digital public infrastructure, this is a phenomenal concept in its own fashion. So, isko bhi hum log fir in the next sessions, we will cover it across. So we come to the close. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions? I think we are ready to go, and I would invite Dr. Surbhi for quick comments and inviting all the participants, whatever, who are there. Yeah.
So the 4th session on the G20 Masterclass has been very informative and scintillating to the core. We have talked about Green Development Pact for a Sustainable Future. And the entire world is talking essentially about the green campuses, the green environment, the green waste management and energy conservation. And so this is very pertinent and very important to assert and understand what the G20 is talking about for the Green Development Pact for a sustainable future. And now we will invite our faculty members, anybody for any comments or questions. We have Arpita Barik ma'am, Swati Chitkara ma'am from OSS, Upala Sharma, ma'am, and anybody in the students or anybody would like to pose a question or comment, please, you're welcome. And then we can close the session. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
It was a very nice topic. Actually, sustainable development is something we really talk about these days. You know, once I read United Nations General once said that we are using resources as if there are two planets. But in reality, there is only one planet.
Yes.
So we should use resources judiciously to save for the future generations. Also, like we have 3 R's: reuse, recycle, reduce for the sustainable development. So it's a very beautiful topic, and children can definitely come with their case study. We also encourage in our classes to come with their ideas, even for the small grades or the high grades, how they can use it in their daily life. Like, you know, starting from switching off lights or disposing waste in different kind of recycle bins. At least it can be recycled.
Yeah.
True.
And I think sir has beautifully covered the plastic is something, it is said it takes 20 years to 500 years to decompose. So it is becoming as a major threat to environment. And so far, no proper solution has been found for this one. Yeah.
So what in our experience is that this one particular section, the global effort is fine. We don't have very little, we have very little agency over that, the big diplomats, the nation heads and all. But at an institutional level, schools are doing phenomenally well on this green development part.
Our
And
children,
And if it can be quantized in some way or the other, because somewhere the impact what we are creating, if we can create a small dashboard, a small spreadsheet, how much, because that can be scaled up, that can be presented to these bigger agencies. So these are the case studies, because it is not the fine, great people at Ministry of Environmental Affairs or whatever. Great much innovation is happening at the school level. If it can be documented in some way or the other, those case studies, those collective case studies can be presented to be incorporated at a higher level. And second is any innovative policy thought. Children are very smart. For example, we all go in our cars. Futuristic cars or futuristic vehicles are created. We consume a lot. But there is no place to, no incinerator within a car. So can some of the students write to an Anand Mahindra, for that matter, he's a public figure, can you devise a kind of an incinerator for putting my plastic waste while I'm traveling? Where to keep that huge bulk of waste? So kind of I would say benign activism where students can even interact with the authorities. I am a student of, like, so much of young environmental activists are there. That approach of, I would say, going to the extent of abuse is not a good idea. At ReTHINK India, we feel creative resistance. If you have a solution, write it out to your local people, regional, to your chief minister. That kind of an activity will also create a popular kind of a movement of, this is the experiment we did, this is what we have done. So I think that is also an area which can be extended in this particular section. We have very little aspect on the larger growth part. This is too high a narrative. Again, SDGs, okay, fine, but then it's a bigger systemic issue. But lifestyles for sustainable development, somewhere or the other, it can be documented कि हमारा collective power consumption इतना था, how much it has come. One is the practices part, but can we document it? Can we create a kind of a group of students who are continuously, solid waste is one, how we've reduced it, energy consumption is second, both at the school and at the domestic community level. So thank you so much, ma'am. I think great. So we'll continue this marathon, and in different.
I want to add something on this. One of our students, you know, she recommended to Cambridge that right now I have this pen which has plastic. So instead of using these plastic pens, we can use some other alternative pens. So that was a recommendation given to her from the Cambridge. She did very thorough research on the project. So like you said, how they can present the real life case study for this. Children are very innovative. They pick up from very small things.
Yes.
Absolutely. They're creative, enthusiastic minds, and they have such great thoughts, and you never know when which thought may be implemented at a higher level. So we should encourage them to brainstorm and imaginatively think.
Like another example I would like to bring it across. There was one experiment, one sensitization. When we cut any of the plastic pouch, we generally do a triangular scissor. So the
Right.
microplastic gets stripped off and it gets into the soil. It is very difficult to contain it. So they say you tear it a bit horizontally and don't detach it from the main packaging. So these are very
Yeah.
so
Because it is
microplastic.
poisonous. It is poisonous for the sea creatures when they
Yes.
eat that small component.
So
Yeah.
microplastics we should be wary of. Like at least the school campus, the school neighborhoods, because there is the future. जो लोग बिगड़े हुए हैं, seniors, they are fine. But I think these are very sincere efforts which can be, and they have to be highlighted. School, like in its section, like which are the key policy recommendations which you did, a standing dashboard can be out there. But this is what we have done. We continue to put it, which is substantive, which can be replicated, which can be expanded. Like this is students' part, fine. But any of the G20 is happening for 20 odd years. So जो भी suggestions हैं, they can be on a school dashboard for a longer term. Oh, in that year, this student put it across. We are adding on top of it. So I think it's very, very engaging, very, very interesting. So Dr. Survi, should we close now? It's almost 1.
Yeah, I think we are good.
Anyone else want to come in? So most welcome. I think we are the 3 we are left out.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Only we 3 are left out. Okay.
Yeah. So lovely. So thank you so much. We will meet, we'll resume it tomorrow. And then once this first phase of it is over, we will try to add further, I would say, at a student level, more content, more interaction. We will try to have it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.